Welcome to the CDO interview. We are in our third interview with Thibault. Welcome, Thibault.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So we were discussing our last discussions with Thibault about ALS, being a company who provides trust to its clients. So having a lot of labs and certifying quality of water, quality of food, quality of minerals for mining companies, like for gold, for example. We then talked about how do you make it happen. We had this notion of having a very strong own development team to own how do we develop all the IT infrastructure for the own labs. So what I would like to do today is to better understand a little bit more about type of learnings we can have from your journey. Could you perhaps share with us to start with a couple of things where you say, well, Julian, I think this works really well for us. And that's something that other companies could copy. I think especially specifically because you are in a world where data is actually your service, is the value that you offer.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I think on the different use cases, something that really works well for us is to have invested very early in traditional AI and machine learning. We didn't start AI with ChatGPT, and which was released in November 22. We've been working on data collection consistently over the last 30 years, and we started to host our data in the cloud 10 years ago. And I think that gives us a maturity and an experience in data management that really is impressive. I think the first point is, start. You need to start. And it's probably the most difficult things. Second point is invest in AI capability and try to find this AI capability outside of your organization. In our case, we decided to purchase a small company, a startup, which was doing AI use cases applied to a mining industry. They bring us the knowledge, the expertise, and also the motivation as well, because it's a different type of company to really tackle the challenges we made in a very different way. Don't try to do everything internalize. Don't hesitate to go out, buy companies, partners with external companies. I think it's very important. It's a risk because you are trying to incorporate insights from different company culture, but it's also the way you're managing this is a strong driver of value and for everybody. So I think this is something that ALS made fantastically over the last years, and so the ability to not incorporate people from outside and to connect them to your business and to your data and to your ways of working and to your clients is something I think that is extremely relevant. And for this, you need to have a culture that enables, to incorporate people and respect diversity. And that is very much at the center of who we are, what we've been doing for now 150 years.
And just perhaps to jump on this first point that you said, is saying, you need to build up the data as a foundation, basically. And you had many years to build up because it's the core of your business. Now, I can imagine that you have a lot of data, right? Meaning the data being at the core and every lab is producing data. How do you manage to identify which data you should actually keep as a foundation and which data should you actually stop capturing and not putting into the cloud?
That's an excellent question. Actually, all the results that we've been doing are kept in the clouds. I'm not saying everything because sometimes clients have the ownership of the data, but we can store for the clients. We have we have ownership of the data, or we are able to use the data in an anonymized way to deliver further insight, and that's something extremely important to us. I think there has been an early awareness in the company of which value do the data have for us, and what enablers or what use cases it could enable further on. If you think about the world 10 years ago, nobody was thinking about generative AI. Nobody knew even that what generative AI exists, because transformers, I think they are from 2018, and there have been, later on, democratized thanks to ChatGPT in 2022. So 10 years ago, it was really a bold move. And we had this intuition that data are really important. And it was even before machine learning explosion, even before generative AI explosion. And I think that was a real bold move from ALS and a very strong intuition, because data are part of our business and our business model.
And this is a very interesting case. If you say, like, with your intuition as an organization, you focus on which of the data is actually the critical one for your future. How do you build up this intuition? And have you like any processes or approaches to say, look, this is really the data I should be keeping for our future?
It's very much related to the software development. The fact that we have our own software development capabilities. And that's something also another great intuition and a great move that we did years ago. We started actually in 2000, probably a little earlier, which is geochemistry business. And we started to standardize ways of working of many labs across the world and to build our own laboratory information management systems. And this gives us the ability to capture a lot of data thanks to that, and to retain a lot of data, because we are producing this data from the origin. And that's a very, differentiative aspect of what we do. And I think it's something great. Coming back to your questions, which data are we keeping, which data are we not keeping? I think it's very much driven by the value they have for our clients, the scientific value of the data. There's a lot of question about metadata, which metadata should you keep or not. That's part of this, but by default, we have a very extensive view of what you capture, because we are the producer of the data, and we also are building the digital backbone that enables the data to be used by our customers. So by default, I would say we have a very broad view of what we should keep. And this is, I'm very happy with that, because, I stepped up in this role months ago. And thanks to that, we have a fantastic, a playground of data, AI, a strong innovation mindset. Probably, I'm very confident that we'll be able to really move fast in these topics in the next years.
Yeah, you have a real advantage over some other chief data and AI officers and information officers. Yes. Not enjoying the same quality of data probably that you enjoy, I can imagine, to get started with. So obviously you're only in the company since 3 months. But do you already have a feeling or have heard from the organization a couple of stories where you said, well, we tried something and that actually didn't go well, and then we learned from it and are doing things today differently? Is there some learning?
Yes. There's a big question mark today, and which we hear in many places in the organization, is how do I use generative AI in client-facing application? It's a big question for us. Generative AI have this model, they have this tendency to hallucination. And we know that hallucination has been decreased significantly in the last years. I remember it was probably, hallucination rates of GPT 3.5 were probably 25%, 30%. It was really big. One question over 3 were, questionable. Now, the official numbers of hallucination and official numbers are provided for me with the report AI index from Stanford University, and it's 1.3%, 1.5%, which is good or not enough. Depends on how you see it. And we are trying to do reliable chatbots for our customers. And that's a big question mark, to be honest, because we are a trust provider. Yep. Can we afford to give 1% wrong answer? How do we manage that? So we are thinking about this. I think we have a solution very soon to really warn the customers, and how do you make the results available to the customer in a very smart way using generative AI. But it's quite a challenge. And if I do a little bit the link with my previous organization, I was working at Orange, which is one of the leading telecom operator in Europe. And at Orange, we pretty much had the same issue with our customer care calls, right? Because at range. I remember in France, we receive 25 million calls a year. So, okay, 1% failures. What does that mean exactly, right? It's potentially we're talking about 250,000 calls that, could go wrong. What does that mean exactly? So I think on the, generative AI, I'm a strong believer that generative AI is a game changer for customer care. And I'm sure we will be able to, to put in production soon a use case that maximize the value we want to give to our clients. But still, it's something that is a challenge, and we need to find a smart way and a safe way to do it.
At the end, is a question of benchmarking it to your status quo, right? Because you have humans also make mistakes. So do you have like a benchmark where you say, this is what we need to pass in order to accept it? Or how do you deal with this?
Yeah, it's more complex than that, because I do believe that humans hallucinate more than 100% of the time, for sure. On average, the point is that probably the machine is more reliable, but it's not accountable. So it's a big debate on reliability versus accountability. And we are trying to solve this problem. I'm sure we have a few good ideas to make it happen. But it's a challenge, to be honest, because we are touching the limits of the technology. And generative AI, and that hallucination is not a bug that you can fix. It's part of the way these models are trained and built. And this is why we need to move in a very smart way to overcome this obstacle. But it's a fascinating problem. It's a fascinating problem because how do you make sure that you leverage generative AI in an environment where you want maximum reliability? And we want maximum reliability because we are trust providers. We are a scientific company. We like to tell you the truth, right? When you send a sample to ALS, you want the truth. You want something like, this is a reliable result. So, and probably you want a result which is reliable in more than 99%. 99% is low. I mean, 1% failure is high. So how do you manage that? I'm sure we can, it's a problem that is manageable, but still, it's something that's quite a challenge for us, as it is for many organizations.
It's really fascinating because what we can learn from you in today's session is that on the one side, yes, you have been thinking very early on which is the data that's really critical, because at the core, you are a data and trust provider. But because you're a trust provider, also the expectations of how well your AI models need to perform is really putting a big challenge. So you're living in the best world and the worst world, let's say.
Exactly.
I'm saying good foundations, but you need to be really the NASA on the data point, to be very exact. So I think a very interesting case.
It's a very interesting challenge to solve. But I'm sure we do have options. And it's something that we're working on very hard.
So thank you very much, Thibault, for these 3 interviews. I think it's really fascinating to observe these companies who are really at the forefront of the generation of what is the truth, which round we then have all industries building up, and having the specific challenges that you have with this type of business is very interesting, probably something that a lot of other organizations can then really learn from. So thank you very much, Thibault, for joining us on those 3 interviews.
Thank you very much.
And for our audience, keep up to date. We will have other interviews with CDOs and CDIOs, and we will then at some point also compare all those thinkings and see what are the parallels and differences. So stay tuned. Very much looking forward to the same interview. Thank you, Thibault.